concerned about voting rights, because voting rights has always been the battle in this country from the beginning. From the beginning, only white males with property could vote. White men that were poor couldn't vote. Native Americans couldn't vote. Women couldn't vote. African Americans were considered 3/5 of a person. So while this vote, this is about the Voting Rights Act, and it does impact African Americans, what we saw the Supreme Court do in June was to commit a crime against democracy. And we're going to need all of us to change this crime. For instance, on my right, this young man you see here, he's one of our lawyers. He may not be black, but he's for justice. And we're in the season that we need to find out who's in it for justice and who's in it just for themselves. The reality is, Chief Justice Roberts and 5 other Supreme Court justices in June misinterpreted the Constitution. Chief Justice Roberts said that we no longer need the Voting Rights Act. That just because there's some African American elected officials, he suggested that there's no longer any blatant discrimination in America. Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who is a Jewish lady, Supreme Court Justice, said to do away with the Section 4 Section 5 of the Voting Rights Act is like throwing your umbrella away just because you're not getting wet in the rain. She said it was hubris, it was pride, it was wrong. Now let's be clear while we're here. When they ruled 5-4 to take away Section 4, Section 4 basically gave the formula for how states would be covered under what's pre-clearance. Say pre-clearance, young folk. Yes. That meant that no state capital or state legislature could pass voting laws that did not have to first be reviewed by the federal government. Reason being, because we know, especially in the South, that states' rights has always been the struggle when states have wanted to do what they wanted to do, irregardless of how it impacted African Americans and other minorities and even women. So the federal government would give pre-clearance. Say pre-clearance. Pre-clearance. But when Section 4 was annihilated, it now means that all of the states that were formerly pre-cleared are no longer pre-cleared. That means that anybody can pass the law, and we have to go to what's called Section 2 and litigate the case while the law is having its impact. Now quickly, the problem with that is, first of all, those extremists have more money than we have. Litigation is costly, and it means there's no review. 2 hours after they passed, the Supreme, 2 hours, say 2 hours. 2 hours. 2 hours after the Supreme Court ruled, Texas announced that it was going to push a law that had already been ruled through pre-clearance as being discriminatory. North Carolina was the first state to pass a law, have it signed by the governor as a voter suppression law after Shelby. Let me tell you what they did after the Supreme Court ruled. They passed a law that made 40 changes in the law. Immediately they said, we're going to end same-day registration. We're going to end early voting. We're going to require a voter ID that's worse than Alabama's and South Carolina. That would affect 317,000 people. 67% of them were women, not just black women. They said they would deny 16 and 17-year-olds the right to pre-register. They did all of that in one bill, which is the worst voter suppression bill since Jim Crow. And they didn't have to worry about pre-clearance because there's no more pre-clearance. So the first fight we have to fight is to restore pre-clearance. Now here's the problem, and I'm through. The Congress has a bill, a bipartisan bill, they say, to restore Section 4, the formula that allows Section 5 to kick in. The problem is when you read the fine print.
Read the fine print.
They say it's a great bill. No, it's a bill. That's all it is. But it's not great because that bill leaves uncovered for pre-clearance Alabama. Leaves uncovered South Carolina. Leaves uncovered North Carolina. Leaves uncovered Virginia and Tennessee and Florida. And it says that if you prove voter ID is discriminatory that's been acted by a state, even that proof does not automatically make that state covered under pre-clearance. Now, the logic of that, my friends, is this, and this is why we have to fight. If this bill passes as it is, we will have less protection than they won 49 years ago when they came across that bill. Brilliant. That means that we will actually go backwards. That we will go backwards, that people shed blood to go forward, and they will sign a bill that takes us backwards. The argument and the logic of this bill is that there is not enough discrimination in Alabama to be pre-cleared. The logic of this bill is that there's not enough discrimination in South Carolina where they still fly the Confederate flag at the Capitol to justify pre-clearance. There's not enough discrimination in Florida where the governor is on a rampage to roll back vote. There's not enough discrimination in North Carolina where we passed the worst voting rights suppression law since Jim Crow. But you should say there is enough. There is enough.
There is enough.
There is enough.
There is enough.
We need coverage.
Coverage.
We need coverage.
We need coverage.
Not less.
Not less.
But more.
But more.
Strengthen the bill.
Strengthen the bill.
Amend the bill.
Amend the bill.
Fix the bill.
Fix the bill.
Go forward.
Go forward.
Not backwards.
Not backwards.
And so I'm glad we came today, but when we leave here, let's go back to Alabama. Let's go back to South Carolina. Let's go back to these states. And let's organize like never before. And let's talk to every congressperson and demand that we will not let America desecrate the blood and the sacrifice of those that came before us. This week is the first week before we can Lent. Lent is the time that you're supposed to repent and turn from your wrong ways. It's time for America, this Supreme Court, this Congress to repent and turn in the right way. And we will settle for nothing less. God bless you.